Gentlemen, if you're a handsome, fit, charismatic, larger than life personality, you make great money. You lead a local band, you paint, you race motocross, you organize your guys' friends' trips, and you have never had a problem attracting and keeping women. By all means, just be yourself. But if not, you need to learn game. Most guys, there's two groups: guys that are naturals, like what I described. They just naturally have it, and they don't know how they do what they do. They're funny. They are dismissive of girls. They get chased by girls. They don't know. And a lot of these guys will pick a girl like at 18 or 19, and that's pretty much who they stay with. They get married fast. They have all this within them, but it's not something that they're even aware of. And on the other end of the spectrum, you got guys that have none of this, no natural charisma. And this is far more normal to not have any physical or mental abilities and to find girls to be somewhat, if interesting, but somewhat confusing. And so learning game gives you a structure. A lot of guys are out there believing that girls are a mystery and that, it's just pure luck, not realizing how much of this is hardwired and predictable and how similar girls are, and that you can actually predict what's going to happen before it happens, especially when it comes to women. And just like Stan the Milkman, he just jumped in here. He said, I definitely was not a natural. I learned that all this after divorce, it shifted my perception of reality totally. Everybody starts kind of like on a curve. I had some natural ability, some natural, and some, what would you say, I lucked into, like I happened to pick up weightlifting at 14 or 15. It had really nothing to do with girls, but it's a habit that tends to help you in that realm. And I did it early. Or like I worked at a comedy club for 2. It helps you with speed of like processing and crushing shit tests. But I didn't know that. You're just kind of like, sometimes you luck in it. Or a guy that like works at the door, he likes weightlifting and he wants to be a cop someday, and he's in college. So he says, I'm going to work the door at like a singles bar or a club. But he's going to be exposed to nightlife and women and a better environment to meet and pick up women than he would if he was sacking groceries down at the Winco. So a lot of it has to do with, as far as your experience before you even discover game, it's a little bit of a mix of genetics, situation. Was your dad a player? You have an uncle that was always showing up with a different girl and your mom hated it because your dad would get distracted. It just depends. Or were you raised by nothing but women? So, sisters and your mom, and there's no like men in your life really. A lot of that has to do with situation, genetics, what you kind of show up with and what you're exposed to, and situation. A lot of gentlemen learn game after a divorce. They get married, everything's great, 10, 15, 20 years, and then they get caught off guard with a divorce, and they have to start at zero, but they have a little bit more money. They've already built a business, or they've worked for somebody, they've had a mentor. So they know that there's a different process sometimes to learning how to manage a situation. And that includes learning how to manage a girl or girls. And that's a real deal. But if you show up and see, it is interesting. And I've noticed, and I say this is the last thing I'll say on this subject, is like with guys that jump in, they'll go, hey, you don't need online dating. Don't just get rid of the apps. Go do what I do. And, I never had an app, and I always met women, and you have to dig down a little bit further for most of these stories. And I've learned this from like coaching, is And I'll say, well, what do you do for a living? They're like, oh, I'm a club promoter, or I'm a DJ, or I'm a bartender. And you work in a warehouse and you never see women. So a lot of it has to do with like when you get advice per se on picking up women, and it's somewhat unconventional because he's never needed online dating because he's around in an environment where there's a lot of eligible women, as opposed to does he work at a nursing home, cleaning up bedpans. It depends on your situation. It has to the rules are universal, but the application is individual. So you have to look at yourself, and you work in a warehouse and you never see any women under the age of 50. The owner's wife who answers the phones, and there's no chicks in the warehouse. It's you and two other dusty dudes. You got your mom and you have whoever you see at QT in the morning when you're getting your roller dog. That's it. So yes, online dating becomes a very necessary part of your life. So just always take advice, especially in the realm of game. You have to kind of look at the background of the practitioner or whoever's giving you advice to see blind spots. There's always more to the story, especially when they say throw out something completely. You'll see less guys in the U.S. recommending like the stopping strangers day game, because there's less places people are on their feet. You go to Europe, there's more, London, there's more people passing by walking, and it's a normal thing for people to walk wherever they're going. And it's normal for people to interact while they're walking. In the US, not so much. Maybe New York City, but again, very few guys in the US have to go to malls, and even malls are dying. So what your environment is going to shape your game. And that's about all I'm going to say on this subject, but that should sum it up. If you're handsome, fit, charismatic, you don't really need it, as long as you're happy with your outcomes. And if you're not, you need to learn game, and it will improve your outcomes.